I love this picture. Menopause. Let's take it on. Let's start with what is menopause. Studies show humour is one of the top 2 things women use to cope with menopause. So I thought I'd start off with a bit of humour rather than the boring official definition of menopause, which means last period. But I'm not going to talk too much about what menopause is, but rather talk about a couple of concerns that we have at Meno-Me about menopause. And we're concerned about women's general lack of knowledge about menopause, particularly as they are approaching menopause. And this is most likely due to the fact that we don't talk about menopause much. Sure, we joke about it, but we don't really talk about it. We have no idea how extreme and miserable it can be for many women and what they go through. And we are also concerned about menopause in the workplace. Sometimes when we've raised the subject of menopause with 50 plus women, we've had the odd person say to us, "Oh, I never had menopause." Like menopause is some kind of illness that some lucky woman can avoid. And there she is, the lucky woman who has avoided menopause. Well, actually, I'm joking, but if anyone was to be immune to menopause, I think Dr. Libby would be. What we think women really mean when they say they've never had menopause is that they haven't ever experienced hot flushes. You see, hot flushes are one symptom everybody knows about, and many women aren't aware of other symptoms resulting from being in menopause. This thinking is the result of menopause being a bit of a taboo subject, and women don't tend to talk about it much. Therefore, information and experiences are not passed on. And the men in our lives certainly don't want to talk about it, apart from one. Dr. Julia Prague from the Imperial College in London says menopause is underrepresented in terms of what people discuss. Sometimes women feel that because no one is talking about it, they're the only ones experiencing these symptoms. And when women do get up the courage to broach the issue, she says people can be dismissive. As a result, it's an issue that's not really out there. I was recently in a cafe and bumped into a male peer. He asked how business was going, and I said, "Great, we've started a new menopause business." Immediately he turned and implied he was heading for the door, and he killed the subject. Incidentally, he's redeemed himself and set up a radio interview for me on Thursday about it, so you probably know who that was. I personally was totally unaware of my mother going through menopause, and while my mother prepared me for adolescence and menstruation, etc., menopause just wasn't discussed. And this is the case for many women approaching menopause today. I myself started noticing changes when I was around 43 years old, where I missed a period every now and then, and after a couple of negative pregnancy tests, menopause did cross my mind initially. That was one of the signs of menopause I knew about, periods stopping. But I was told by older relatives I was too young to be starting menopause. Then at 45, my sleep deteriorated badly, and I experienced really weird vertigo. I didn't know why or what was happening to me. At the same time, I had a meeting with Peter Lurkey about a new business venture for Meno-Me and Estrogen 100, a herbal menopause support product. During the conversation, Peter rattled off a number of menopause symptoms, one being sleeplessness and another vertigo, among others. The penny dropped and I said, I think I better try this Estrogen 100 myself. So at 45 I started taking a menopause support supplement. Anyway, back to my earlier statement and the lucky women who think they've never had menopause. Menopause is not an illness. It's not something that can be cured. It's a natural stage of life, and for women, the only way to avoid it is to die before you hit your mid-40s. That's true. If someone is over 50 and saying they didn't go through menopause, it's similar to a 20-year-old saying they never went through adolescence. If you are female and 50, then you have experienced one of the stages of menopause, which are perimenopause, menopause or postmenopause, irrespective of whether you have experienced hot flushes or not. There are 34 documented symptoms of menopause, and as you can see, hot flushes are just one of them. And it's no wonder we don't talk about menopause. Who wants to admit they have loss of libido or gained 10 kgs, or talk about the fact they feel they are failing as a boss at work because of mood swings and losing their cool? Or who wants to share that they are too anxious to leave the house? There are some real tough stories out there. But to experience hot flushes, in our view, is a great thing because it makes you realise you are in menopause. Hot flushes is the one symptom women connect with menopause, while many of the other symptoms might just be associated with middle age. And why are hot flushes good? Because if you know you're in menopause, then that is your wake-up call to make lifestyle changes to ensure you live the rest of your life in great health. And we live a third of our lives in post-menopause. So consider this. Menopause is the gateway to healthy ageing. Why? Because it's at this time of life that you have to make sure you are doing all the right things to have a healthy heart, strong bones, normal cholesterol levels, great-looking skin and hair, and strong defences against cancer. Without the warning signs of hot flushes, we may just all continue living our lives as we did in our 30s, and our 50-year-old bodies just won't cope. If we miss that call and carry on living as we have done, we may not be taking the best care of ourselves. Also, if we are unaware of menopause, we could mistake the signs of menopause for something else and take a wrong turn. For example, someone I know quite well didn't realise she was menopausal and ended up on antidepressants prescribed by a doctor to help her sleep when she actually didn't need them at all. She was just experiencing menopause-induced anxiety. She had some terrible side effects from the antidepressants, including nausea, and to top it off, later when she tried to change her health insurance, mental health, depression are now listed as pre-existing conditions. So moving on to menopause in the workplace. In our modern world, many Meno women are at the top of their game when it comes to their jobs and careers. Yet the workplace is totally unaware and unaccommodating of women in menopause. Not being aware of our own menopause can affect productivity at work. We might not understand why we have less energy and therefore less output, why we forget things, why we feel anxious or teary when challenged by a workmate, why we feel less effective, why we may snap at our workmates or reporting staff. We may just try to carry on and put it down to age rather than menopausal symptoms that can be alleviated and managed. All of these behaviours are tolerated at home by our families and partners, but may not be in the workplace where menopause is not discussed or acknowledged. What I've just illustrated are from real life examples from women we are talking to. And let's compare menopause with pregnancy at work. My fellow Meno-Me colleague Lee Kite, who worked around having 2 children, has experienced herself the huge difference between being pregnant at work and menopausal at work. During pregnancy, everybody wanted to talk to her about how she was feeling, give advice, and share in the joy of her experience. If she started walking slower than usual, needed to put her feet up, or the fan on because that baby can be a heater sometimes, no problem. If her memory was not what it used to be, it was laughed off, baby brain. She got looked after in her new life stage, no problem to take time off for doctor's appointments, and if she was not feeling well, everyone understood her need to take time out. Contrast that with being in menopause. Your energy levels are not what they used to be. Your memory starts playing tricks on you. You suffer from hot flushes, anxiety, and mood swings. The stress of working life exacerbates all of your symptoms. You think everyone can see what is happening to you, but in fact nobody does. And if they did, nobody would want to talk about it anyway. You are invisible and there are no support structures for you. What would your boss say if you asked to go home early because you are suffering from your menopause symptoms? Yep, it sounds crazy, I know, but the physical changes you go through during menopause are as profound as going through pregnancy and should be treated with the same level of care. And here's something for you to think about. Pregnant women have their antenatal classes as a support structure to prepare them for the physical challenges ahead. What would be the equivalent for Meno women? How can we change all this? Well, you can be the change. As professional women, be alert to women you work with or have reporting to you. Talk about any struggles you perceive they may be having. If you are already in menopause, look for the signs in others at work and have the courage to talk about how to cope. Some of them may not even know they are in this life stage themselves, so you can help them recognise the signs. If women are not aware they are in menopause, it can have devastating consequences for their health, their productivity at work, and their careers. So let's talk about menopause. One of our goals at Meno-Me is to get women to talk about menopause freely, so they can be more knowledgeable about what may happen and make informed choices about what they can do to minimise symptoms and minimise future health risks. But when I say talk, I don't just mean talk about the symptoms of menopause. I mean really talk about the struggles we have coping with what is going on in our lives because of our declining estrogen levels. I'd like to finish off with a bit of humour, and here's the late Victoria Wood and her take on menopause.
But at the time, I just put it down to the menopause, because I was that age, and I put everything down to the menopause now. Tiredness, irritability, global warming. Well, it could be, couldn't it? 200 lady Eskimos all having a hot flush at the same time. Whoa! No, and I was used to going a bit mad, once a month. I was used to all that. I was used to that cycle, you're all right, you get your period, you've got your period. I love you, I hate you, I'm really sorry, I'm really... And I'd identified a little mini cycle within that when you go like this because you're ovulating. I'm all right, I get my period, I've had my period, I'm ovulating. I love you, I'm really sorry, I get out of it. And I thought, well, that's all right, I'll have all that. And then that'll stop, and then I'll get my menopause. But what I didn't realise was, you get all this, I'm having my period, I'm really... And at the same time, you get your menopause coming the other way. So you're going, all right, I get my period, I've had my period, I'm ovulating. Is it hot or is it me? What have I come in here for? Well, it got so bad with me that in the end, there was only 17 minutes in a month when anybody could get any sense out of me. So they're all queuing up for those 17 minutes. Because they know that'll be nice and reasonable and won't burst into tears. So they're all queuing up. We've got everybody. We've got carol singers in April. Deck the halls. Yes, come in. I've got those men who go to door selling the dusters. Yes, I'll have your dusters. Yes. Yes, and your ironing board cover. Anything you like. My children are queuing up. Can I go to Ibiza even though I'm only 12? Yes, of course you can, my darling. Can I have another 2 Game Boys? Yes, of course you can, my darling. My husband's at the back of the queue. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Yes, can we have sex tonight? Oh, ping time's up. What have I come in here for?